All right, everybody. We are in the studio with Mr. Justin Smith. And Justin has been a student and a mentee of mine and a brother and a friend for just forever. And I am super, super proud of what he's doing. And we're touching base. Him and I are going to talk about some strategy after the show, but I just wanted to, do a little bit of recap for everybody because it's he's definitely one of my success stories in life. And when you can help somebody else in your life, that really is the purpose that we're here for. And Justin, we met on Facebook 10 or 15 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was shortly after I joined Denver Lodge number 5.
And you have a
Was
Masonic tattoo.
I do.
I have a Masonic tattoo.
That is true.
And I think it's about in the same place. Mine's right here.
Yes, sir.
Yep, yep. But I noticed that on Facebook, and I sent you a friend's request, and you and I got to be talking together, and that's one of the great things about the Masonic Order is you get to meet people that care about you before they even meet you.
Absolutely.
And so you and I started talking, and we were kind of reviewing your financial journey and what you were doing. You have a great job. You're a hard worker, but you needed a little bit of direction in what you were doing. And we just kind of started touching base a little bit, and you cleaned up some of your finances. And then as you grew financially and got stronger, you ended up buying a house in Denver, which is unheard of, especially for a young guy. I think that the Denver market is, almost unreachable.
Oh, yeah. Currently,
a young
absolutely.
single person. You really have to have a tough mindset. But you bought the perfect house in Denver, and it was just a cute little craftsman house, but it had a big shop in it, which you're sitting in right now.
Correct. I
just
spend most of my time out here.
I just want to tell you how proud I am of you, and you've done so well. And if you'd care to share, your financial growth or talk about what you're doing in the aspects of, what can the young guys do to get started? They've got debt, they've got car loans, they've got problems, they've got credit cards. And what do you think is the right way for them to really start helping themselves?
It hurts. Nobody wants to hear it. As much as it hurt me to get my head wrapped around it, biggest thing for me was paying off my debt. Getting that debt in a manageable position was my biggest tool. So now that I have my revolving debt at a much more reasonable level, I think currently sitting around $6,000 in revolving debt. So in my eyes, not terrible, less than I make a month. So if I absolutely had to, I could pay it off immediately. But having that debt way lower than it was has allowed me to use my monthly income to diversify everything that I have for investments or debt paying off or getting rid of, any sort of bills that are hanging around.
And I would describe your situation, and it happens all the time, as you went through boot camp and you got everything together, you trimmed down, paid everything off, bought your house, and then, you are trained, you know exactly what to do, and then you lived your life. You went off course a little bit, and you did some different things that young guys do.
Yeah, that's
and
one of them.
built some race cars and did some different things and let your debt get out of control. However, the way I know that you are going to be okay and that you have your compass set in the right direction is you think, oh, you know what? I'm going to call Mark. I'm going to talk to him and I'm going to tell him what I'm doing with my credit cards. And I'm going to kind of discuss some of my details, which we're not going to do on the show. But
Yeah.
You called me and I'm like, that guy's got his shit together. He calls somebody and gets a little coaching along the way instead of going all the way back and having all the china slide off the table. You're like, look, I made these 100 steps and I'm good. I bought a house. I haven't bought my first rental house investment. I've been investing in my 401k at work, building up that. I've been doing all that kind of stuff. I've got some, tangible assets in the cars, that there's money there, but who knows what that will end up being. Yeah. But you're like, you know what? I'm just going to call a friend. I was your coach before, and now I'm your coach friend. And you're like, hey, here's what I'm doing. What do you think?
Absolutely.
And eventually, Justin, the people like you, we get to talk about how badly you're doing and what you need to do and shot and whatever. And now we have to have another talk today about how good you're doing. And you get to talk about your good stuff. And so you're not bragging, to someone else.
Yeah.
You're bragging to me.
Exactly.
But at first we talk about how bad you are. Then the second level is, hey, we talk about how good you are and what we want to work on. And the key thing that I want you to remember and I want you to follow through on is help another person. Because Absolutely. That's the stage, and you're probably already doing this, but that's the stage where you can say, hey, look, bro, here's what I did. And let me show you all my plays so you understand I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm showing you what I did. And you get to brag about yourself a little bit. And, look, I bought this house and here's my net worth sheet and here's what I've got going. You need to get started, and you give them the first step and talk about all the stuff they're not doing correctly to get out. But you get to brag about yourself a little bit about, hey, look what I've done and here's what I plan to do. And that's the whole process. And when I have people graduate from what I do with them, eventually I don't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
About what you need to do.
In a good way. Yeah.
We only talk about what you're doing. I worked with owners of Texas K9 University probably 10 years ago. And they have a multi-million-dollar business. They have all these stocks and savings and real estate and everything else. And I don't talk to them anymore about, hey, Mark, what should we do? I talk to them about, hey, what we're doing. Hey, do you want to invest in a dog business in Oklahoma if we start one? Sure. But it really gives me a sense of satisfaction to see you guys being successful. I mean, the fact that you're sitting in your own house with your dream shop and it's got a oil furnace so you can put your used oil in there and heat your place for free. I mean, it warms my heart, and it tells me, I've done something good in this life because of you. And it really is great. So well done.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Well done. So is there anything else you want to tell the community about before we sign off and just go through your stuff?
I mean, it's definitely a lot of hard work to really try and focus on your debt. A lot of people don't want to pay money. It's essentially going nowhere. I mean, it's going towards debt, so it's not going nowhere, but in your mind, it's going nowhere because you're seeing your return on it. It's really hard to get wrapped around that. But once you do, and you just kind of sit with it for a little bit, it becomes a lot easier. And then as you see things start paying off, it just gets more and more motivating. So you got to get through at least that first one. Once you feel that first one, then it just gets easier and easier.
You know, I agree wholeheartedly, and I tell the couples, turn it into a game. Come up with a game plan, figure out what you're going to do, and then turn it into a game. You know,
Yep.
that way at least you're getting something. If you have a little thermometer on the fridge, and I think you and I did this with your credit card debt, every day you can go in there and, you know, strike off, you know, another $1,000 of debt that's weighing you down. You make it a game, and at least you're
Yep.
getting something out of it, because what you're saying is exactly true. When you buy a new race car, or you buy a new spoon engine, or you buy whatever it is you guys are doing, you have fun because you're doing that thing.
Yeah.
And when you pay your debt down, you don't get to realize it right away.
Correct.
But if you pay your debt down,
More money for toys.
that's 4 or 5 engines down the road, you know? So in my case, it's a motorcycle obsession. But
Exactly.
If you really buckle down, and a lot of times we can show people the other things. Say, Mark, okay, well, you know, you're well off and in your retirement and not working. You retired early, but you're old. You know, you're the result of, you know, 40 years of doing this. I'm young. You know, you can't compare the same things as blah, 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 blah. And that's when I say bullshit. You know, here's a young guy, and he's doing it. He's got traction, and he did the hard things at first, and he's got traction. You know, so hopefully, and that's why I want to do this as a podcast and then go private to do your session. But people need to see that it's doable, you know, and
100%.
Especially in Denver, you know, it's so hard.
It is.
It is so hard. And rent on a 2-bedroom house in a whatever neighborhood, maybe a good medium neighborhood, $2,500 a month.
That's more than my mortgage.
It's $3,000 a month if you want the house and the garage.
Oh, goodness.
And you're saying that your mortgage is less than that?
Yeah. My mortgage is less than $2,200 a month. So yeah.
And you got into your house. How long you been in there?
Coming up on 3 years. December it'll be 3 years.
So, you need to really buckle down and get that done. If you're trying to build your wealth, you know, if we're paying rent to somebody else, you know, then that, you know, increases. It keeps increasing.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if we went and looked back 3 years ago, I'll bet you that the rent on a 2-bedroom place with a garage was probably $1,800.
Oh yeah. The prices in the last 2 years have gotten insane.
But you stepped up and said, okay, I want to pay $400 more a month than it would be to rent, because I'm going to try and get some security. And now here it is. You're paying $22 a month and they're paying $3,000 a month.
And now I think I've got something like $80,000 or $90,000 in equity in the house. And that's just based off Credit Karma. That's not, you know, I've done a couple of doors, I've done some upgrades, I added a few nicks and knacks to the garage. So I mean, I'm definitely sitting on value now.
Absolutely, without question. And if we wanted to go in and do an analysis of your house, my professional opinion, and I put my real estate license on ice because, you know, I haven't ever charged anybody more than 1%, because I do real estate deals for my family members and friends.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, it's the real estate agents are making way too much money for what they're actually doing. but I still have all that knowledge, even though I put my license on ice. I still have all that knowledge. And if I looked at your house and did the actual comp study, I would think that you're over $100,000 in equity, which doesn't really matter that much because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it will matter later when you decide to move, or you decide to move, and your dream is to go.
I'd like to retire out of the country. I've been looking at Colombia recently. I went to Medellin last year.
You traveled extensively in this place you're talking about.
Yeah. Down in Colombia. So I'll be going back again this year. I'll be going for Halloween. But I keep going back and forth. I've been trying some other places as well. But I just don't think I want to retire in the States. I'll still keep a home base with one of my family members so that I can come out and visit still. But I would like to try and retire out of the country.
Well, I love that. And so the structure of your finances that we're building now is going to have to provide for streaming income, and so you can have that lifestyle in that other country, wherever that is.
Yeah.
And that is the key to building wealth as you grow older. And Justin, how old are you?
34.
34. So by the time that you want to move to Colombia, and probably you end up being a vagabond, okay? And that's what my wife and I, structured our thing for, is we want to be able to go to a different place for months at a time. Okay?
Yeah.
So you might get a penthouse apartment and rent it for $900 a month. It's really nice. And you've got $34,000 or $64,100 coming in a month that's going into an account that's accessible on a debit card. And your income is coming to you, and you're spending it arbitrage in a place where it's less expensive to live.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
I suggest people to arbitrage from the really expensive markets to where I am in Oklahoma. That's an inter-United States plan of kind of what you're doing, and then travel around however you want to, or whatever, or just move to Oklahoma. Like, I've got vets that I work with.
Yeah.
They got $1,600 a month coming in, and they're not even making rent with that.
Yeah, I'm at $2,250 a month right now is what I get from the VA.
Okay, so if you only had your VA, if you're a retired disabled vet and you only had your VA, you get wiped out in Denver.
Yeah.
Your rent goes to most of your check. You're living in a slum, and you can't get, insurance. You can't get cars. You can't get the right food to eat. I mean, it's a struggle. But
that's one other quick thing that also helped me a lot, just because you brought up insurances and all that, is any bills that I could afford to pay at an annual basis.
Yes.
I do. So my car insurance, it sucks because I now have a fairly expensive car to insure, but I pay my insurance a year at a time. I pay my trash a year at a time. Any bill that I can pay a year at a time, I pay a year at a time, because it helps get rid of that monthly expense.
Well, plus,
just wanted to throw that in there.
10% cheaper every month.
Yeah, exactly.
If you bite the bullet and pay it annually, I mean, if you do it monthly, they get a little bit more skin from you.
Yes, exactly.
But that's helping you make your traction.
Yeah.
But these back to your moving to Colombia thing. These veterans that I talk to, I can get them a rental house in small town Oklahoma for $600 a month. Really
Yeah.
nice two-bedroom place. And now they've got $1,000 in disposable income. They're living in a small Oklahoma town that's a really quiet little town. They're retired. They can futz around in the garden or do whatever they want to. You got high-speed internet. Shit, some of these guys could just play what's that shooter game you guys play? The video game?
Oh,
Megadeth or
Call of
whatever.
Call of
Call of
Duty or
Duty.
whatever. Yeah.
You could sit in your house with a big screen TV and play Call of Duty with your brothers. I mean, the internet has changed the game completely.
Yeah.
You could even have a little part-time job on the internet. But the point is they moved from Denver to small town Oklahoma on their fixed income, and they live a much richer life. And your situation, Justin, is you're going to move from Denver. You're going to have income producing assets that make you money while you sleep.
Yeah.
And turn that into money that's fueling your lifestyle. And you're going to live like a king.
Yeah.
In Colombia. And I know a lot of guys that do it in Thailand. I know a lot of guys that do it in Bangkok and some of these other places where a really good meal is $7 in a restaurant.
Yeah. And that's how it was when I was in Colombia last year. I went down to Colombia for a 4-day weekend, and my flight, hotel, every penny I spent from the time I stepped out of my front door to the time I came back in was $600.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we're going to get you to the point where you're having that streaming income, including your veteran pay and including everything. We're going to set a number, you and I, and we're going to decide, hey, look, I want $8,000 a month coming in passive. And that way I go down to Colombia for 3 months at a time, and rent the nicest penthouse. I have the nicest services. I do whatever I want to do. I've got so much money relative to the living costs of where I'm going that I'm
set
wealthy beyond measure given where I'm at. And you and I talked a lot of times in the beginning about gratitude and how gratitude and money work together. And I am very comfortable living in a single wide mobile home.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I am super grateful to be there. And I talked to my wife one time 25 years ago. And I said, honey, would you be okay if we lived in a mobile home and in nice mobile home park, and we had a nice canopy and a barbecue in the house and a nice big screen TV and nice people? Would you be okay with that life? Not that we had to stay there. We could always want more and achieve more, but would you be happy? Yeah. And she said, would we have internet? And I said, oh yeah, we'd have fast internet. Oh yeah, I could do that. And
priorities, right?
I feel like if we're grateful in our little house in Denver with our shop that we have and everything's nice, then when you go to Colombia and you're in the penthouse with the pool downstairs and you have a couple of staff, a maid and a cook and other things that they do over there, you'll be happy there as well. Yeah. And I think that's a really important discussion that you and I have had for years. Are you happy where you're at? Good. Do you have hopes and dreams of making another step? Yes. If you don't achieve that, are you still going to be happy? And the answer to that question is yes. Yes. And you're going to have a fabulous lifestyle. And the other thing you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to have freedom and I had never bought a mountain home or a beach home or anything like that. We have our roots, and then we have our real estate that feeds us passive income. And if I want to go to Cozumel and check into the Malia Hotel and live there for 3 or 4 months, I can. And then after I leave, I can go home, check in with my people or whatever, and go back there. Or
Yeah.
I can say, oh, I want to rent a house this time, so I'm not in the hotel with the restaurant. I'm in the house on the other side of the island that has its own private beach and everything else. And then I have a kitchen and whatever. I stay there for 3 months. And then I go back home. I check in with my people, check in on some of my investments. And then I say, hey, let's go to Costa Rica. And so I go there for 3 months and live in the jungle in a resort there. And, then I say, oh, let's go visit Justin in Colombia. So I go stay there for a month or two. I rent the penthouse right next to you. And then we do whatever we're going to do. But that freedom of the passive income that's coming in allows you to make decisions.
Yeah.
You don't have to be stuck in a certain place. And my mother-in-law, wonderful woman, and her husband bought a place in Florida where they have their RV and down there and that kind of thing. And they got stuck, It kind of got old. They're in the same place, but they bought it. So they couldn't go to a different, park or whatever.
Yeah.
And at that stage of the way, their friends were dying off, and pretty much they didn't know anybody after that. And it was sad that, they got stuck in one place. And I want you to have that frame of mind when you're setting up your, remote, when you move. I love your home base thing. And we don't need to buy anything in a foreign country because we don't know what's going to happen. We pay rent and we own properties in the United States that are arbitraging the money that are coming in. So you could have a rental property that's making $3,000 a month, and you have those rents dropped into an account that reaches you in Colombia. Holy crap.
Well, that was another thing.
Spending $500 a month and you have 3 coming in.
That was another thing I was thinking of is, I have this house too. I mean, nothing really stopping me from fixing up the house good enough to rent out and then renting out the house. Well, I live in another country and then I can have the garage still to store all my toys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the house hacking mentality, so buy a couple of rental properties that you can afford, but keep your main house. I always say we don't sell real estate. We only buy real estate. And the only exception, and I'll use my own numbers so that we can put some numbers to it that are real. But when I moved from Denver to Oklahoma 3 years ago, the house I lived in Parker sold for $725,000. I originally bought the house for $227,000.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were able to utilize the $500 homestead deduction, so we didn't have to pay taxes on that $500,000. And again, this is just for education for people, but we did that because $700,000 rental house is nothing but problems. Because on rental houses, we need to have 1% of the value of the house be the monthly rent, or maybe 80%. But if we buy a $100,000 house, we need to rent it out for $1,000. And the people that are renting the house need to have 3 times income of the rent. They need to have a good credit score. They need to have no evictions and no criminal background problem. And the way I tell people is, I can work with you on one of those things, but not all four.
Yeah.
If you got a little bit of struggling on your credit, but you got massive income and no evictions and no criminal background, we can work on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point that I'm making for you is I didn't want to rent my house to somebody that could afford to pay $7,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're drug dealers.
Well, yeah.
I don't care who it is. Or they're corporate people that are only going to stay there for 3 months and now I got to re-rent the house again. I mean, nobody, it's like, don't go out at midnight. After midnight, nothing good happens after midnight. It's like police stations and hospitals. But anybody that can pay $7,000 a month for rent and doesn't just buy their own place, we don't want it. So if your place is worth $500,000 or $400,000, okay, we can that average rents in Denver are $3,500 a month. Okay, we're probably going to get some good qualified renters that are looking to buy a house in a couple of years for themselves, and that makes sense. If your house was 6, 7, 8, $1 million at that point, you gotta sell it, break it up into 4 rentals or one for you that's smaller and 4 rentals or whatever. But that's the math. And we take a look at that when it's time for you to retire from your W-2 and retire early, because we work with you and the others that you and I work with, that we're trying to teach. We talk about FIRE, financial independence, retire early. And that's what you worked on years ago and got you to here. Now you're taking that next step of saying, hey, look, what's your retirement age? 45?
I'm looking at 40 to 45. I would like to retire by 2030.
I love it. And there's a lot of people I work with, they want to retire when they're 50.
Yeah.
Or 55. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to look at. Health insurance is the only thing that other people struggle with. And I know you have a kind of ace in the hole. And I always like to talk about that because I don't think we treat our veterans the way we should in this country. But that is one area where if you want to retire early, you get to, because you get medical.
Yeah, a lot of people have told me I'm very, very, very fortunate to have the medical.
Absolutely.
And I did also recently learn that it does work internationally. I just have to make sure that I send the VA the bill within 72 hours. So I learned that 2 months ago when I almost cut my pinky off. I had to go to the hospital. I had to go to the hospital and get 7 stitches. So that was pretty gnarly. But I will say that they made it very, very painless on me. I left, went to the VA, got 7 stitches, and was back home in just under 3 hours.
Amazing. So,
and I did.
For people that are retiring early, that didn't choose to serve their country like you did, it's a struggle for them, because between 55 and 65, you have to do your own insurance, and it's a burden a lot of times. But for those people that did make the right choice, that did serve their country like you did, that is a huge benefit for veterans that are retiring early. So I love that. And thank you again for your service, buddy. And I'm glad that it's giving you an advantage over the general public, because you did do the thing you needed to do for us. So you're renting out your house, keeping your garage in the future. And I love that idea. Unless the value eclipses what you can do, then we do another thing. But I don't think that your particular house is going to do that within 10 years.
Yeah.
I think in 15 years, you're going to have to make a decision because
Yeah.
the equity growth is going to be big enough to where it won't make sense. However, it's a really good tool to have a roommate. And if you can stand a roommate and do the house hack and pay the thing down a little bit, that is very powerful. And a lot of your renters are learning that. So instead of one person renting your house when you go to Columbia, there'll be two.
Yeah.
And we'll have two families living in there and living together, parents, kids, uncle, whatever, whoever it is. But the multifamily rental in your house to let people get ahead is strong. And your house would be good with that, especially since you have your garage that you can lock up, alarm, do whatever with cameras while you're out of the country. They don't need the building because you have a long driveway and another parking option right next to the shop.
Plenty of parking. Yeah.
So 3 or 4 cars off street.
Yep.
Makes it
Easy.
a very reasonable multifamily renter type deal.
I think I have 7 cars on my property right now, and only one of them is in front of the house.
Yeah. So that's a good, solid plan. Especially as you start, buying down the mortgage. However, and I'm a big proponent of getting rid of all debt. However, you're sitting on a 3% mortgage rate.
2.5.
Bro, you can never pay that off. I mean, normally I would say pay off the debt, get rid of that. But the arbitrage again here is, you could buy a T-bill for 4% and profit off of that interest rate, much less, somebody renting the house for $3,000 and they make the $2,200 mortgage payment and you're making $800.
Yep.
Maybe you're making $400 because you got to pay insurance and taxes. But you're still making $400 or $500 a month, and they're paying off that debt. That's hard to walk away from. Any other kind of debt I don't like, but I would keep that. It's a 30-year fixed, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you'll be long into your financial independence, retire early lifestyle, and there'll be $100,000 left on that's getting paid down. And unless something changes significantly, I don't like ever getting rid of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time that we'd ever pay that off is if it went down to 1.2 and we refinanced it down to 1.2.
Yeah.
I mean, right now when people are paying 7, you own the world.
I couldn't imagine paying the interest rates people are getting charged right now.
Well, and I have a TikTok video that hit 1 million views last month when I talked about used cars and the collapse of the used car market.
Yep.
And I have a kid that I work with that rescues people out of car loans. That's his job. And he says, Mark, it's crazy. These people come to me and they're $20,000 upside down and they're paying 20%. And, 18, 20%. And it's a life ender,
Oh yeah.
To get involved in that. The house situation is really similar, because a lot of these real estate agents and mortgage people are telling people to marry the house and date the rate. Well, that's high level gambling. And if it doesn't swing your way, it's a problem. So bless all you people that have 2.5. That's wonderful. We're not going to pay that off. But what you and I are going to talk to each other about after the show is we're going to do a scope on whatever debt you have right now, and we're going to look at your investment portfolio that makes money while we sleep. Okay. generally it's 59 years old till you can start taking out of your 401k. I know enough about your story to know that you make too much money to get a Roth. Yeah, they won't let you buy a Roth IRA. And a Roth IRA is you take after-tax money and you put it in an account, and then you don't have to pay taxes on it when you pull it out.
So my 401k I have right now is a Roth. They do tax it before it goes
That's
into
beautiful.
mine.
I love that. Keep doing that as long as you're under the
I
limit.
think I'm I think I'm at 8% or something like that is what's getting taken out of my check, and then the company matches for, and then I get 7% of my gross salary every March.
And do you get that in stock?
No, it's just a lump sum that's dumped into my
Okay.
401k.
Well, the thing we're talking about is how can we access that money? And
Yeah.
normally you have to be 59 unless there's a penalty. But if you're doing the Roth thing, and we'll talk about that off air, but we'll look at the income requirements when they're going to say, hey, you can't do this anymore. Then you'll have the Roth growing, and then we'll do a different IRA that's more suited to your income. And I'm pretty sure you're going to hit that soon, but we'll look at it. But we could take 4% out of that Roth and generally have that grow back up to its same place. So without affecting the principal, you run off and take 4% out of your Roth, and it'll keep growing. And so that is part of your income that you get while you sleep, and that's the thing that you need to concentrate on at your level. You're like, I'm pretty much debt free except for the house.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start looking for ways to invest in things that pay me while I sleep. And
exactly.
Your first shot at that is your retirement fund, and you've got that well in hand, and that's awesome. You've taken care of your medical, which is the next thing I talk to people about: getting an investment, buy a rental house that pays for your medical premium. You don't have to do that because of your service to the country, and that ticks that off. So the next thing that I like for you is a rental property. I like the rental property for you in Oklahoma, not in Denver.
Okay.
Because the metric doesn't work in Denver. It's too expensive. We go out and buy a $500,000 house in Denver. That's pretty much the bottom line. $4,000 maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't rent that out for $4,000 a month and have a thing that's going correctly. If there's a $300,000 condo somewhere, you've got 800, 600 HOA, taxes, insurance. You can't rent that out for $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And find a vetted renter. So you're $2,200 a month, and now we're not making money. But if you buy a $50,000 house or a $60,000 house in Oklahoma, we're getting $600 a month on that right away.
Yeah.
And now you have a paid off asset with no loan that's generating income and growing in value, just like your Roth account is. But it's a little bit separate. So if the stock market takes a giant dump, you're like, well, I'm going to leave that money there. I'm going to live off my rental houses. And one of the things that I've done with students is I've put together LLCs for them where I've got a veteran or a savvied investor that I work with, that they're learning the real estate business. There's me, and I make sure and buy a third of it just so it doesn't fail. And my little baby birds, like you, say, hey, look, Mark, I want to buy a house. And I did this with Jeff. Here, just a second. I did this with Jeff Myers. He was a kid that was a vice president for me in the computer store. I think you remember Jeff.
Yeah, I remember Jeff.
I got together with a guy that works at Comcast. He's an executive, but he's learning the business. And Jeff wanted to try his first, income producing real estate asset. And let me, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. So this house right here, we bought for March 2024. We bought it for $40,000. It was an off-market deal. We put 10 into it. We had to repair the roof, and we did a couple of other things. But so we're all in on this house for $50,000. It's rented to a veteran, and the VA is paying half the rent. So this guy is in this house, and he's paying $310 a month. The VA pays the rest of it. But my investors, Jeff and Steve, that are in this house and this is a cute little 2-bedroom house with a 2-car garage and a corner lot. They're into this for $50,000, and they can sell it now for $100,000 if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But they're getting $600 a month passive income that's taking care of all the expenses. And later on, as this grows, we could ship $200 a month to you. And it probably doesn't work that way. You're in Columbia and get $200 a month. What happens is you probably get a distribution for that amount of money twice a year, and you get a check coming in. But the important thing about this for you, when we're discussing you, is you save up $17,000 and say, hey, Mark, when you have one of these $40,000 houses, I want in. Because that's what these guys funded this corporation with, $17,000 each. And now they have this asset that's going through. And that's reachable for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll look at one more. This house, we just bought that. This isn't updated, but it was an old funeral home.
Oh.
And a different group that I'm working with bought this house for $70,000.
Wow.
But it needed a couple of bedrooms or a couple of bathrooms and a kitchen put in. But it's a really cool property with a little front area that's nice, 4,000 square foot, 4-car garage. We are all in on this property after the reno, and it looks beautiful. We're all in for $110,000.
Wow.
And I have a little girl that's living in there with her 3 kids, single mom, and she makes her money on the internet. So she's got a high-speed line going in there, and she's paying $1,200 a month. So she's getting a great place for her kids to be for $1,200 a month, 4,000 square foot, and the investors are getting a huge return. and it's all cash, so everybody's safe. So when you're ready to say, what should I do as my next step to make money while I sleep, to make money in the United States while I'm on a beach out of the country, you know?
Yeah.
And that's your focus of, okay, I'm doing my retirement. I can, get, money from there. I've got my military benefits. I can get money from there. As I'm doing my budget, should I buy crypto?
I've been out of crypto for a while now. Since I bought the house, I've been out of crypto.
Say no. Okay.
Yeah.
That's gambling. And, if you take 5% of your income and go to Vegas and gamble with Mark on a roulette table or a baccarat table, and we're laughing and having fun, that's entertainment. And we might win some money, but it's not investing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
crypto is the exact same gamble. Penny stocks are the exact same gamble. So when we choose what we're actually investing in, and I know yours is a little bit different because it's a company plan and you might not get all the choice you want in investing, but we put it in the S&P 500 and let it go. Or we buy companies that we really love that are dividend producers. And we've got, waste management, trash company, and people can't go without their trash.
Yeah.
That increases, and it's not as much of a gamble, and it throws off $700 a month if we have $100,000 in waste management. And that's another, how do we make money while we sleep, alternative to and we're filling up these little baskets, but then we look at crypto and say, yeah, that's not my jam. That's, quick money.
I made my money with it once and now I'm out.
But it's just so dangerous. You can lose
Yeah.
everything. And so the other thing is penny stocks. We're not doing the internet stocks or the AMC or the GameStop or any of that kind of stuff because it's too gambling. And if you want to have a gambling account, go ahead. You can put 2% of your net worth in there and just have fun gambling. It's the same as a race car. You build a race car, run around in it. Are you going to make some money? Probably not. Could you? Yes. But it's not a good, solid foundation. So we got 2% of our net worth in crypto that we're playing with. Perfect. We got 2% in our net worth in penny stocks that we're playing with. Fine. I don't care. We got 2% in some other crazy thing that we're doing. That's fine. If we're buying and selling gold and silver or, vintage race car parts or whatever, but that's fun and we could make money with it, but it's not an investment. So you look at all that and then you say, look, I'm getting into real estate. I've never heard about a millionaire except for 1% that didn't become a millionaire and not have equity investments. And what that means is real estate or business. So we start a lawn mowing company, Justin's lawn mowing company, and it becomes massive. You put $5,000 in it, you start it 20 years later, you sell it for $3 million. That's an equity growth investment. And a lot of the billionaires have big businesses that they build up and sell. But most of the mom and pop wealth, the millionaire next door, people like you and people like me, we buy some real estate and then it grows over time and it takes care of us in our old age. So your plan, if I had to say, I'm you and I'm looking to build my plan is, beat down that debt and then save up $20,000 and buy a third of one of these investments in Oklahoma. And the reason I say that is I've got a team in Oklahoma that takes care of the houses. They know all the repair guys, all the real estate agents are in place, and you can help And this is the thing, whenever I make one of these corporations, you have to be an active investor. You have to start learning how to vet the tenants. You have to start learning how to do the lease. You have to start, some of the guys in Denver that are doing this, they pay all the bills. And they pay all the bills, they make a spreadsheet, and they collect all the rents. That's their part of it. I go down and help the real estate agents pick out the property, and then I run the construction guys and do my part. But everybody's learning together, and I don't do business with anybody that I don't love. I'm an old man. I'm retired. I only do it to educate my people that I love to take care of and see them be successful. I don't care if you're a multimillionaire and you want to give me money to invest. I don't do it.
Yeah.
The only money I ever take is people that are growing their wealth and hardworking veterans and people that I know. Then I help them make the next step, because you buy a third and figure it out. You buy a third and you figure it out. You buy a third and then you figure it out. Now you've got 3/3 of, some houses coming up, and you come to me and say, "Hey, Mark, can we just go halvesies on this next one?" And I say, absolutely, let's do it. Then you buy half and half, and then you've got money coming in from these little chickens,
Yep.
and then pretty soon you got a half and a half and a half in these LLCs, holding companies, capital companies. And then you're like, "Mark, I think I'm ready." Okay, well, I've taught you everything I know. All the construction guys, how to do the leases and stuff. Let's have you do one on your own. You buy 120,000 property in Norman, Oklahoma, and now you got $1,400 a month coming in because you've grown into learning how to do it yourself. I like to have the partners because, if you're in Columbia, one of your partners can go check the property. So it's always nice to have partners, but you'll have individual stuff that's your own. But that's where I see your projection over the next 10 years is to get that passive income in real estate to equal what 4% of your 401k or your Roth IRA is. So if we're taking out $3,000 a month at 4% on our Roth money, we've got $3,000 a month coming in from our equity.
Gotcha.
In real estate. And that's growing in value in both places. So 10 years from now, we're taking 6 out of the Roth because it's grown, and we're taking 6 out of the rentals, and their rents is really the distribution there, but their value has grown. And so you don't touch the principal in each case, but you're getting that draw. So you're getting $6,000 a month there. You got your $2,000, probably $3,000 if they give you a COLA.
Yeah,
now
they do.
You got about 10 or 12, coming in while you're doing your 3 months in Columbia or wherever you're doing. Does that sound like a plan?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, brother. And any variation, and I tell everyone that I advise, and this, Justin, you've been with me for 10 years and I've been helping you, and you've just done such a great job. I don't tell people what to do, ever.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't say, "Justin, you better do this," or "You better do this." What I say is, here's what I'm looking at. Here's what I think the ramifications are. And here's what I did. And with that data, you say, "Holy crap, I'm paying my credit cards off. Holy crap, I'm buying a house. Holy crap, I'm going to do whatever." And it works out or it doesn't. And we kind of, work together on looking at it. But that's how I see you moving forward. If you choose a different path, I'm happy to, enjoy watching you do that. But I don't think that the wealth formula is very complicated. It's just like do the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's just not a magic thing. You just, like you said, it hurts and it pinches, as my wife says. Every time we buy a property, it pinches. And, you have been pinched and saved up and did whatever. So you know what to do. And we can just visit about these different, opportunities that there are to be successful and their risks. But I think, that's a good long-term plan for you. So I'm going to end this show, and Shane, Justin, I'm going to just tell you this. Thank you for sharing your story with the other people, because that's who we care about. Our little lambs. And 19-year-old Mason who's working on a construction crew. If we can get to him earlier or her earlier, they're going to have an easier way than you did.
Oh,
And
100%.
hopefully got to you early, so you have a little bit easier way than I did. And by the time you're 62 like me, I have an expectation that you should be richer than me.
Oh, yeah.
And
we've had that conversation.
Right? And that's my goal. I want you to do better than I did. And I did pretty good for an old guy. I have, the ability to take half of my time and do this coaching and not charge anybody anything, because it helps the world and the individuals be more successful. So I'm going to shut this show down. But stay in the green room. I'm going to take you out, and then we'll revisit and talk about some of your more personal things and check in with you and see what you're doing. But thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother. Always a pleasure.
Justin Smith, everybody.